However, in recent years, tanks, once a dominant force in land warfare, are increasingly disappearing from the battlefield. This disappearance isn't due to tanks becoming obsolete or ineffective, but because they are being hunted and destroyed at an alarming rate by a new type of weapon. First-person view drones. FPV drones, once a minor player in military conflicts, have evolved into devastating instruments of destruction, turning the traditional battlefield into a deadly zone for tanks. These drones have fundamentally changed the way wars are fought, with tanks, which once ruled the battlefield, now facing an unprecedented threat. The result has been a rapid shift in tactics, with tanks becoming a rare sight on the front lines. As armies adapt to the new reality of drone warfare, the tanks struggle in the modern battlefield. By the middle of 2025, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported staggering losses in tank numbers. According to Ukraine's General Staff, over 9,700 Russian tanks have been destroyed, a figure that represents more than half of Russia's total tank inventory. While independent sources like AUKS, an organization that tracks military losses, put the number low at around 3,700. The trend is clear: tanks, especially older models, are being wiped out at a rapid pace. In the early days of the war, Russia had a formidable tank force with over 17,000 tanks at its disposal. However, by 2025, Russia has not only failed to replenish these losses, but is also being forced to rely on outdated refurbished tanks that are no match for modern anti-tank weapons. The tanks that are still rolling off Russian production lines, such as the T-90M and T-72BM, are far from enough to make up for the staggering losses. In fact, many of these new tanks are quickly destroyed as soon as they hit the battlefield, contributing to the depletion of Russia's armored forces. By 2025, Russia is only able to produce around 400 tanks annually, a fraction of the 1,500 produced in 2022. In the face of these challenges, Russia has been forced to pull older tanks from storage, refurbishing models from the Cold War era, such as the T-80BVM, which dates back to 1976. Despite upgrades to its weaponry and protection systems, these refurbished tanks are no match for the high-tech weaponry employed by Ukraine, particularly FPV drones. These drones are devastatingly effective against tanks, capable of striking vulnerable areas where traditional tank armor is weakest. The rise of FPV drones, the rapid development and use of FPV drones have turned the tide of warfare. Initially, drones were used for reconnaissance. Their role has expanded significantly, and they have become a key part of modern military strategy. FPV drones are small, fast, and capable of flying into enemy territory to deliver precise, lethal strikes. The main advantage of these drones is their ability to target a tank's weakest point, the top, unlike previous anti-tank weapons such as missiles or artillery, which generally attack a tank from the front or sides. FPV drones can fly above a tank and dive down to strike its vulnerable turret and engine area where the armor is thinner. This vulnerability has made tanks easy targets for drones, rendering them highly susceptible to destruction, despite their heavy armor and advanced weaponry. Even the most advanced tanks, such as the US M1 Abrams, are not immune. The M1 Abrams, considered one of the most capable tanks in the world, features composite armor designed to withstand conventional anti-tank weapons. However, its top armor, designed to protect against overhead attacks, is relatively weak within weeks of their deployment to Ukraine. Several M1 Abrams were destroyed by FPV drones, leading to their withdrawal from the front lines by mid-2024. By June 2025, reports indicated that only 5 out of the 31 M1 Abrams delivered to Ukraine were still operational. The situation is even worse for Russia's older tanks, which lack the advanced armor and systems of modern tanks. Approximately 2/3 of Russia's tank losses have been attributed to FPV drones. These drones, costing only a few $100s, have effectively turned what was once a symbol of military power into a vulnerable and expensive target. The age of the drone. The introduction of FPV drones has fundamentally changed how battles are fought. Tanks, once the spearhead of offensive operations, are now forced to adopt a more cautious role. Both Russian and Ukrainian forces have adjusted their tactics to account for the threat of drones. Tanks are no longer used aggressively as a first line of offense, but are instead employed cautiously, offering infantry support or providing artillery cover from behind the lines. Ukraine has been particularly adept at using drones in the defense. By 2024, Ukraine had perfected the art of FPV drone warfare, which allowed its forces to decimate Russian tanks and armored vehicles before they even had a chance to engage. Ukrainian forces have used drones to create kill zones, areas where any movement triggers a swarm of drone strikes, making it virtually impossible for tanks or infantry to survive on the Russian side. The response to this new threat has been to adopt similar tactics. Rather than relying on large tank columns to assault enemy positions, Russia has shifted to smaller, more mobile infantry units, often using motorcycles or quad bikes to advance. These small units are harder to target with drones, but they come at a significant cost in terms of human lives. The Russians have also attempted to develop new technologies to counter drones, such as the Turtle Tank, a bizarre, heavily armored vehicle designed to deflect drone strikes. While these efforts have had some success, they have not been enough to overcome the devastating effectiveness of FPV drones, the changing nature of the battlefield. As drones become more integral to warfare, the concept of the kill zone has emerged as a defining feature of modern conflict. A kill zone is an area saturated with drones, reconnaissance equipment, and electronic warfare systems where any movement triggers a swift and deadly response. These zones can stretch for miles, making it impossible to launch a successful offensive without first neutralizing the drone threat. Drones have also had a significant impact on the evacuation of wounded soldiers in the past. Medical teams could quickly extract casualties from the battlefield. But now the constant threat of drone strikes makes this increasingly difficult. Many soldiers who could have been saved are now left to die on the front lines as evacuation becomes nearly impossible. The use of drones has also made it harder for both sides to maintain supply lines. Russia, in particular, has focused on disrupting Ukraine's logistical routes, setting up drone kill zones to prevent supplies from reaching key cities. This strategy is akin to an old-fashioned siege, aimed at starving the enemy out over time. The future of the tank is doomed. Despite the devastating impact of FPV drones, it would be premature to declare the tank obsolete. Tanks are still a formidable force on the battlefield, particularly against enemies that lack the drone capabilities of Ukraine. Tanks are especially effective in forests or other areas where drones are less effective. Furthermore, the lessons learned from the current conflict will lead to innovations in tank design to better counter drone threats. One of the most notable innovations is the development of coke cages, which are wire meshes placed over tanks to deflect drone attacks. While not perfect, these cages have made it more difficult for drones to land a fatal blow on tanks. Russian tanks, including the T-90M Pro Arrive, have also been equipped with electronic warfare systems designed to jam drone signals, giving them a better chance of survival. The future of the tank will depend on how well military engineers can adapt to the evolving threat of drones. Tank building engineers are already working on new technologies to make tanks more resistant to drone attacks, and it is likely that we will see the development of FPV drone-proof tanks in the coming years. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of warfare and the end of the tank era, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the latest military innovations and battlefield strategies. If you liked our video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel.